Hey, Address Teen Stress. I'm Alba Shasta, and welcome back to our Teen Stories Told series, where we interview teens or individuals that just crossed their teen years to share their mental health story and give us their thoughts and opinions on teen mental health. Today, I'm here with the Texas FBLA State Secretary, Laasya Goriparti. Laasya, can you please start off by telling me a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Laasya. I serve as the State Secretary of Texas FBLA, and I also work in a lot of activism, based nonprofits, such as my own nonprofit, Unmute. And I love advocating for social inequalities and trying to solve that through social entrepreneurship and empowering people that are also introverted and like suppressed to take action on causes that are relevant to them and are holding them back from achieving their full potential. And also in the career aspect, I'm interested in neuroscience and neurotechnology. I really love BCI and emerging technologies such as that, and hope to go into that field in the future.
All right, so as we know, FBLA has been a really big part of your life. Has there been any struggle to keep up with this really big responsibility, and how do you think it has impacted your mental health in both a positive and negative way?
Yeah, so FBLA, especially when you get to state leadership, it does become pretty hectic. But I would have to say, like the negative, like the stress and everything, came more from rather than doing my duties as a state officer and area officer, it came more from like exposing myself to like how the real world works, like how different mentalities, different people approach something such as FBLA or an organization doing their job, working with different people. Some people tend to want to climb ladders, while some people will want to actually make an impact. So dealing with different mentalities and then also staying true to my passion, not diverting just because I'm dealing with, not losing track of the actual goal that I came into FBLA for, which is to impact people and, make a tangible impact in people's lives. So not losing sight of that goal is probably what most of my stress came out of. But then when I was campaigning for state, I really like understood how I need to like draw that boundary and make sure that I don't lose myself in this process. And so that's why I made that mural for my state campaign. Most of the people
Yeah,
that attend the
it's
state
pretty
has
cool.
seen it. And when I made my campaign, including that mural, I really understood like who I am and what I'm representing. And that made me like solidified like of my personality and not losing track of that personality, and also helping others that are going through the struggles that come with leadership in such a massive like organization, to not lose sight of their own goals, their own passions, when dealing with all sorts of obstacles that arise. And most of them actually do not have to do with the duties that come with leadership, but more so like different mentalities and such. And then a positive impact of all of this is, like I said, just really understanding myself and making sure that carries on. What I got out of FBLA really carries on into Unmute and other work that I do, because I really understood how to make sure that um, my work doesn't get like I don't just give up on something because it's not going exactly the way I micromanage or want it to go. And so that skill set that I've developed is the positive I've gotten out of FBLA.
And then, so can you tell me a little bit more about your FBLA journey and how you got to this point? And if there's someone out there that's thinking to maybe join FBLA, but they're kind of on the like rim about it, what are the benefits and why do you think they should join?
Yeah, so my journey started out freshman year, like most of us. So I was a freshman ambassador in my chapter, and I didn't really start taking FBLA seriously till my sophomore year when I became my chapter secretary. And then I really wanted to, I was in a point in my life where my own mental health, my personal mental health journey was also very like unraveling. And at that point, I needed something that would really push me out of my shell. Like, because I was sick of sitting around and just like thinking about how sad I am, how bad everything is, but not doing anything, not taking tangible action. And so that's why I decided, there's FBLA, and I was finally understanding how it all works. So it's like, okay, I'm going to constantly put myself under pressure to push myself out of this cage I've locked myself into. And so that's why I started taking action in FBLA. And then I went into running for area 5 leadership. And that was the first time I ever gave a speech in front of well, anyone, but at such a massive scale also. And when I did that successfully, I was like, okay, what's next? I need to. It's not in the sense that what's next in climbing the ladder. It was always what's next in pushing myself out of this cage. I need to come like put myself in more uncomfortable situations, come out of my comfort zone. And that's the only way that I feel I could actually get out of the like void I was drowning in. And so then I went for state. And then when I went to state, I was like, I have to use this opportunity. Like I was going in completely like 100% confident I was not going to win. So that's why I used the opportunity to actually like understand myself better, come out of this shell. That was always my main goal. And so my journey began with like my journey in like state leadership really began with my campaign, which is how I like presented myself on what I advocate for. That mural like went over like all the different things I that explain me, all the words that really explain my personality, and I really stuck to that throughout my state term as well. So someone that may be like on the rim of joining FBLA, nothing, it really won't hurt you, right? At least joining is not going to hurt you at all. And you may not get, you always get what you put into FBLA. That's what all the leaders in FBLA say, national, state, area, anyone, because we understand that when you only put in enough effort to be a general member, you won't really get that much. You won't get what we preach about. But when you put in effort that is like what I did, constantly pushing yourself, you have to, your goal has to be something besides college app and resume expansion. It has to be like something that you really want to, what do you want out of it, not what do you want colleges to get out of it, right? And when you make that your goal, you will get the benefits we all got. And it's not just me, all of my state team like can vouch for this. They really improved as individuals through their state term. So of course, joining, like the benefits, they're endless, but because you get personal and professional development out of FBLA. But if you're on the verge of running for leadership, I highly urge you to do so, because I was very introverted. Like I really talked to maybe 2 or 3 people like on a daily basis. And I was super introverted and also going through a lot of mental health issues myself. And I really didn't think, well, a lot of people told me this too, that someone as mentally like um conflicted, like someone that's not like, I wasn't in a mentally healthy position to be like leading a lot of people. And if you're in that position, right, you shouldn't, like, yes, that's a valid argument, but that is more so why people need you to be in leadership, because you can't always count on people that are perfectly like healthy, very optimistic, and see everything in a very positive, very cheerful. Like a lot of people used to tell me that, because I'm a little bit more pessimistic, and I tend to see the negatives and things more, that I shouldn't be in a leadership position as large as FBLA. But that is more so why we need more people that have gone through real hardcore issues and battles to be in leadership. So you are as valid as your cheerful, opponent to be running. And no matter how introverted, extroverted you are, that is just you. And we need more representation of not just racial, but like more representation of different mindsets, different backgrounds and experiences to be in leadership for this organization and other organizations, right? To develop and grow in a way that impacts everyone and doesn't leave anyone out. Because I'm in leadership, I've been able to bring to the table more perspectives that other people who haven't gone through as much or similar experiences as me have. And that's why we need you. So no matter how, like, the more on the verge you are, like, trust me, I really did not think I could do this or come out of my shell like within the last year at all. And I'm really proud of how far I've come. And even if you lose, right? Just the part that going on stage, speaking in front of, well, if you're running for state, speaking in front of so many people, like that power that you feel when you've gotten over that, like when you give that speech and you're done, then you're like, whoa, what did I just do, right? And after you do that, your self-confidence, your morale grows a lot. And when that grows, then that automatically, like, everything else, okay, if I could do that, I could do this. If I can do this, I can do it. And then your confidence starts growing. And it's a form of therapy for me. That's what I'm trying to say. So no matter like how introverted, how conflicted you are, you're not going to harm yourself by putting yourself out there. whether you win or lose. And if you win, it's an amazing journey. If you lose, just the state campaign, I have to say, is definitely the most growth I've gotten. Then that 3 day period, I've gotten more growth than I have over the course of my whole term. So I highly encourage anyone, no matter where you come from, to go for it.
Wow, I've never kind of like seen leadership in that way, like that perspective. So that was very inspiring. And last year I was actually at that conference and I remember like watching you give your speech and everything. And I was just like, wow, that's like very inspiring. So it's really awesome to see like where you're at now. So that's really cool. So, as you kind of mentioned a little bit before, you're the founder of and CEO of an organization called Unmute, as well as founder of the Golden Globe Initiative. So, talk to me a little bit about these organizations. Did you face any obstacles starting these? How did it play a role when it comes to stress you may have endured?
Yes. So Unmute, I started when I was 14. So at that age, I've seen Unmute started when I was at a very low point in my life. And I also didn't understand. It was also around the COVID pandemic time. So a lot of isolation, a lot of time to contemplate such things, right? And then there was so many suicides and so many drastic, like the news, like especially with all the COVID, like mental health escalation of the crisis, right? So much of that news that I was seeing, and then so much of like internal and external, like I guess exigence that was like triggering like me to like do something. I have to take an action, but I'm only 14. No, I still have to take an action. I didn't understand what I was getting myself into. Like I didn't start out thinking like now when I start organizations, like I know I'm starting an organization, I know what I'm getting into, but at that age, I just was like, no, I have to do something. I have to do something. And it's had nothing about like resume or college apps, none of that. I just felt like I really had to take action, right? I didn't know what that action meant, but I started by looking into what are some ways I can volunteer or maybe contribute. Nothing really seemed like I was only hearing therapy, therapy, therapy. What I was seeing, like in my own, I have nothing against therapy, but in the mental health aspect, right? Most of my peers who I have seen and talked to when they were struggling, myself struggling, we come from households where therapy is a taboo. Therapy is not a option. It's not a viable option. And so much of the demographics and statistics of suicide and clinical major depression, right, is coming from people that really cannot, therapy is not an option for them. So we had to find another tangible alternative. And so that's why I started Unmute. It's actually not just a nonprofit, it's a nonprofit tech startup, except the tech startup is starting up a bit in like the next coming months. I'm actually working with Amar Nangia, one of my state officers, to do that. But so the tech startup aspect is using, because two things are really common in our world, right? The mental health issues, like everybody has it to some extent, and then technology, everyone has it to some extent. Well, most of us. Um, and so that's why I wanted to use one to combat the other. And so technology, in the sense that building like a metaverse, like where everyone has just access to, where they can escape from their reality, and that metaverse and that AI is aligned in such a way that it makes them feel like they do belong in a world, maybe not reality, but in that world they can escape to, they belong. It all works, like it all brings them peace. And so that kind of like AI and metaverse, and then some AR simulation games, an AI based therapist, and then like using BCI and things that I mentioned before that I'm interested in. So emerging technologies that I wanted to use to create technology that is accessible to all, and also um, actually solve the issue, because you have like an AI companion, for example, that you get introduced to when you're like young. Well, you can get introduced at any age, but it starts developing with you. So it matches your psychological development. And so I want to create something where as you grow, so let's say a 7-year-old gets this, the AI starts thinking, like understanding taking input of a 7-year-old at that age, right? And then as they grow, when they get to like their preteens, when they start developing these disorders, or like this AI already knows what that person was going through when they were 7 years old. And I can say, what I went through when I was around that age definitely has caused the mental health issues I developed. And so the AI understands all of this. And when you get to the age, when you hit like the teenage years where you start developing like suicidal self-harm and tendencies and such, it can automatically trigger that and actually detect that, right? And do something about it. Because it's a conversational AI that understands how you speak as you grow. And so then when you get to an age where you really feel that loneliness, isolation, you have something that feels like someone that you can actually speak to. Because a therapist, at the end of the day, is a stranger, in my opinion. So that's what I want to create, using technology to kind of, well, not necessarily that I don't think I'm gonna solve the issue. I'm sure there's like we have to do a lot more measures to actually solve the actual mental health crisis, but providing something to people that therapy is not an option. Medications are really not an option because you would need a guardian too, and a lot of us come from households where that's really not an option, and so that's why I created Unmute. And obstacles I faced a lot because I didn't know what I was getting into. I started out, I was like, okay, what do I do? Because do I target like the suicide, like what you're doing right now with address teen stress? Like that's what I started out with doing, more of like awareness and then getting different people's inputs and such. But I didn't understand what all I wanted to do because there was a lot of social issues that I also wanted to target that were causing the mental health like issues. And so that's why now we work with we do a lot of like empowerment in all sorts of ways, like gender disparities, LGBTQ, suppression, oppression. Like right now we're working on a project where it's for Gaza, and we're trying to bring awareness to oppression and issues that cause, like, in different parts of the world, the mental health crisis, the youth in different parts of the world, what are they suffering with that cause this? And like opening people's eyes to all sorts of issues that are triggering. Why is the youth today so much more depressed than people used to be? Is it because we didn't used to care about this before and we didn't used to like take data, or is it really because there's so many more issues we're facing today, the youth is facing today than before, and trying to solve every one of those one by one. So we setting up branches in different countries, that's definitely one of the biggest like stressful factor, because like getting that outreach to different countries, I know when I don't personally have connections, is very stressful. And then most of my team is not where I live, they're all in like different parts of the world. So like when I started out, like I said, I was 14. Most of my team members were 2 to 3 years older than me. So garnering that respect and trying to get people to take me seriously when I'm just a 14-year-old, that was hard. So all those happened. And the reason why, like tying it back to FBLA, why I needed FBLA to come into my life when it did, was because when I like put myself out there in FBLA, it really gave me the skill set that I was lacking when I first started Unmute. Now I'm able to like actually make Unmute thrive because I have these skill sets that I didn't used to have. Because like I said, I started Unmute when I was also mentally like kind of unstable, and also introverted, very much did not have like the public speaking skills or the self-confidence. So going into FBLA helped me come back and apply those skill sets to improve like and actually make a bigger impact with Unmute. And then the Golden Globe Initiative is another one of my projects where, so it's like the idea is that we use technology. So we it's like very much hackathon based. So we host like events and hackathons and such where we're exposing the youth to emerging technologies that we're a lot of the time shielded from, because it's like happening behind the doors of labs, and like a lot of things that the youth is not aware. Like a lot of people don't know what like quantum or like BCI, for example. A lot of people, my peers, don't know what that is and how that's going to like revolutionize our future within just the next 5 years. And so exposing the youth to that, and then using those technologies, like in these hackathons, they're going to be building technologies where that directly solve an issue for someone somewhere in the world. So the Golden Globe aspect is that, like, for example, in one of the hackathons we host, there'd be like a golden, like a globe thing, right? And with different issues from that people are facing. So just like somewhere in some country, right? And a family needs more access to clean water or something like that. And that's like some like in that globe. And so whenever, at the hackathon, the people participating there pull that out of the globe, they have to come up with a way to use emerging technology and like technology that we have access to solve that issue. So it's like giving the youth an opportunity to actually solve real world issues using through their passion for technology, whatever it may be, not just technology, like even graphic design, whatever they want to bring to the table. And so the idea is that we bridge like the youth around the world, like the people that need opportunities and people that have opportunities that can be provided, and we create like a golden globe and like solve like the issues that through what we have access to. So that's like and developing that love for like philanthropy and social entrepreneurship in the youth, and so that grows alongside their passion, so that when they go into the workforce, after college, through college, after college, they like take that with them, that like social responsibility with them, and hopefully continue to do such deeds. So that's the idea behind that.
I love how you kind of like put your own interest into this organization. And obviously, I know like when you're very interested and passionate about something, it turns into this really phenomenal thing, which is something you've done. So that was actually amazing. That was a lot of information. And I just think that what you're doing is really cool. I definitely didn't know that. So that's really cool. So talking a
Thank
little
you.
bit more about mental health side, so how do you think your perspective has changed on mental health from when you were a freshman in high school to now as a junior in high school, I believe, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So as a freshman, all I really like knew was my own experiences, right? So because like I said, I was very closed off, all I really knew was what I've gone through, and then thinking that it's just unfixable, thinking I'm unfixable, right? Thinking that most of my problems just cannot be solved. And for the most part, some of them really can't be. They're like things I really can't just solve. But when I started putting my like leadership, like the reason why it's so imperative in my life, or like the role it played is so imperative in my life, more than the role I've played in leadership, is because it really changed like how I saw myself, right? So how I saw mental health changed along with like how I saw perceived myself, my own abilities, my potential, um, and my personality. So I started out, I was always very like introverted, but I was always like thinking and dreaming about like big things, and then like telling myself, you can't accomplish these things if you continue to stay so closed off and just drowning in your own like struggles. And so when I put myself out there every year so far, I've seen myself grow. And I'm not saying like, so the mental health issues and such that I face and see my peers facing, like, I don't think those go away. They don't necessarily go away. Things don't just get better. You have to make you get better, right? You get better. Like there's always like those pictograms that show this, but um, it doesn't get better, but you get better. You get better from going across all of these hurdles. You start getting better, and the hurdles aren't just gonna flatten out. You get better, and that's what happened for me. So that's what I see as mental health, like issues with mental health issues. You have to start. You can't wait for things to get better because they really won't. It'll actually only get worse. And I have to say, like throughout the past three years, with all the stress I've taken on, with all the different leadership roles I play, and just all the academic stress, of course, um, nothing. I don't think my freshman year self that was like just sitting in my worries and saying like, oh, it's not going to get better. It really, I would be amazed at how much it really didn't. It got so much worse. I probably wouldn't even been able to endure that, the pain I take now then. But your tolerance grows, right? When you start putting yourself out there in uncomfortable situations. Like there's that quote that says like life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And if you're constantly thinking about, you know, ending your life, or just like you feel like you're not living, you're living by biological definition, but you feel like a living corpse, you you won't be able to like. And my biggest problem is like time. Like I'm losing the most like important like beautiful years of my life just like mulling over uh this depression, this darkness, right? And I want to come out to the light. And so that's like having people who urged me and pushed me into coming out into the light really helped. And then once I got out into the light, like my state team, like I've made like my best friends there, and they consistently pushed me forward. And so now I have a higher tolerance that I've developed to mental health issues. And I really like, I hope that people maybe watching this or just in general also take this into consideration, because you are the only one that can fix what you're going through. Because no matter how many people you tell or trust or whatnot, no one can necessarily, like, even a therapist can't fix your problems for you. They can only fix how you perceive them and then how you act upon it. So that's why, like, you have to take, you're the only one that understands yourself, like 100% understands yourself, right? And so you have to take action in ways that really benefit you. For me, it was just putting myself out there and then proving to myself that I am capable of attaining the dreams that I so yearn to have. And so that's how my perspective changed. I really like before I was like, okay, this is all just unfixable. There's nothing I can do about it. But then doing something about it changed it to where, okay, things are most likely only going to get worse and worse. And honestly, the more I expose myself to, like, especially with the project activism I'm doing now, I'm seeing people go through so much more than I possibly will ever go through in my lifetime, right? And understanding that, I find comfort and healing in what I'm doing because I find healing in healing others and helping others. That's how I like feel more. That is my therapy. That is the only therapy that would work for me genuinely. So that's why you have to create your own therapy. Like, especially if you're someone who can't access therapy or medications or anything like that, or even you just can't even access like a trusted adult or just a trusted friend. You don't have any of that, right? Then you have to create your own therapy. The therapy starts within you, right? How you perceive yourself. When that starts changing, everything starts changing. How you perceive the world changes, and how you like how for me how I perceive mental health will also change.
And then, how do you think your coping mechanisms have evolved throughout high school?
Yeah. So before it used to be more like just like drowning myself in more work. It was like a workaholic. More I put on myself, the more I just kept myself busy. Like when I started high school, I was like, I'm going to join every club here, not because I want to for college apps, but because then I won't have time to physically think about what's actually going on in my head. That was why, genuinely why I went to every club at freshman orientation. And so everything I was mildly interested in, I just like dove into it so that I just have no time in my schedule to think about what I'm actually going through. And that way I could, it was a master plan. It wasn't a master plan. It broke immediately because I started getting to academic side of things and it's just like, no. And so then when I got into this like journey with FBLA, my coping mechanisms began to change into where I'm not drowning, uh I'm enacting what I preach, right? So what I tell people to do, like I do it for myself too. When I just can't take it anymore, just taking a break. And that's very cliche, but that break, what you take to have time to yourself, you have to actually do something. Don't just like sit there, like on Instagram or TikTok, right? Actually do something that makes you feel better. And so that's when I need a break from work, I go into doing what I'm genuinely passionate about. So maybe something related to neuroscience, learning about neuroscience, or actually like taking action, doing some sort of activism because that heals me. And so my coping mechanisms began what I started to say, like what my passions were, like actually making those a part of my life and not a part of my future. Because before I was always like, okay, yeah, I can just like drown myself in all of this work and then like in the future I'll somehow get better. No, you won't. But when you start actually like living the future that you want in the present, that became my coping mechanism, like what I want to do, like humanitarian rights, fighting for all of these things that I do now. I didn't used to do before, because before I would be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. And like when I'm done with high school, no, like that's not how it works. Because then every day you'll wake up feeling like miserable because you're not doing what you actually want. Even for an hour a day, you're not doing what you actually want. Now it's like I'm giving myself time, even if it means sacrificing academic performance or something like that. Because in the end of the day, I have a friend who always says like, in 5 years, will this test even matter? No, it won't. It won't even matter. Like the minute I walk out of that test, it won't matter. So why not just like use my time to actually live? Because that brings me a sense of comfort and healing that nothing else can. No 100 or no 1600 will bring me. Right. So that's why I always my coping mechanisms have been to just live in the moment more than waiting for a future. That's become like how I changed my coping mechanisms.
And then my last question to you is what advice would you give to someone out there that's struggling with their mental health or just some kind of message that you would like to leave for our Adjusting Stress audience?
Yeah. Um, so as like cliche as it may sound, coming from someone who named their organization Unmute, genuinely my message is to unmute yourself. Because when you start hearing when I started hearing I used to never like actually like hear myself because I was always talking in my own head. But when I started hearing like my voice and then hearing people get impacted by what I'm saying, and then hearing how just speaking out really changes how I perceive everything. That really helped. So like when you're struggling, first of all, yes, speak out about what you're struggling about, but speak out about who you actually like, what you want, how what you think will actually solve your issue. And then going after that, hearing it will um, either writing it down, telling someone, and then actually going after it. Right, that's like how you make a goal a real goal. So focus on what will actually fix you. Like when you're telling someone, right? I'm telling my friend, when I'm talking to like Umar, like I said, best friend now. But when I tell him something, it's like I notice like, okay, I sent like 4 messages just ranting about this. Now I need to send like more messages about what I'm gonna do to fix this, right? What I'm actually gonna take as actions to solve this. Because that's what matters. That's what he can help me with. That's what like anyone, like my parents or anybody can actually help me with how to solve it. There no one sitting there going like, nothing's changing. No one's helping me. No one can help you unless you tell them like what is the action you need to take. Start taking action to own your life, own your future, own your present, most importantly. And own your youth, because this is like you only get one time. I mean, you only get one time at life and living any stage of life, but especially your youth, like especially these teenage years, don't let the depression and darkness rob you of it. That was my biggest issue. It was like all this time I'm losing to this on something I can't even physically see is robbing all of my time and all of my life and all of my joy, right? And so you have to create your own euphoria. As my state campaign was like find your euphoria, but what I wanted to say in my speech actually, when for the SLC is like I realized you can't find it. You have to create it. You have to create your euphoria. And that's what I hope that people will do because when you start creating that life that you want to live in, creating a world that gives you gratification and happiness and that euphoric feeling, that's when you start healing. You have to create your own therapy, create your own euphoria.
All right, thank you so much for having the opportunity of taking this interview. I think I can speak for everyone that this was a very informational interview. I personally have done many episodes of this series and our other series, but like I've learned so much from you alone. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you for helping share your story and thank you for helping us address teen stress.